Welcome back. This is James Kelly. This article is called Serverless Containers Intensify Secure Networking Requirements. Yeah, that's right. It sounds like breaking news. Hey, this is the first one of 2018, and as usual, I just wanted to say thanks to everybody that tunes in. Thanks to everybody that reads, likes, reshares, or follows me on LinkedIn, where I usually share all this stuff first, as well as jameskelly.net, sort of the source of truth for all of my blogs. And away we go. Serverless containers. Intensify secure networking requirements. When you're off to the races with Kubernetes, the first order of business as a developer is figuring out a microservices architecture and your DevOps pipeline to build pods. However, if you're the Kubernetes Cluster I&O Pro, also known as a Site Reliability Engineer, SRE, then your first order of business is figuring out Kubernetes itself, as the cluster becomes the computer for the pod packaged applications. One of the things a cluster SRE deals with, even for managed Kubernetes offerings like GKE, is the cluster infrastructure, servers, VMs, or infrastructure as a service. These servers are known as the Kubernetes nodes. The pursuit of efficiency. When you get into higher order Kubernetes, there are a few things you chase. First, multi-purpose clusters can squeeze out more efficiency of the underlying server resources and your SRE time. By multi-purpose cluster, I mean running a multitude of applications, projects, teams/tenants, and DevOps pipeline stages like dev test, build bake, staging, production, all on the same cluster. When you're new to Kubernetes, such dimensions are often created on separate clusters, per project, per team, etc. But as your Kate's journey matures, there's only so long you can ignore the waste this causes in the underlying server resource capacity. Across your multi-cloud, consolidating many clusters into as few as practical for your reliability constraints also saves you time and less of that swivel chairing for patching, cluster upgrades, secrets and artifact distribution, compliance, monitoring, and much more. Second, there's the constant chase of scaling efficiency. Kubernetes and active monitoring agents can help take care of auto-scaling individual microservices, but scaling out assumes you have capacity in your cluster nodes. Especially if you're running your cluster atop infrastructure as a service, it's actually wasteful to maintain and pay for extra capacity in your spare VM instances. You probably need some buffer because spinning up VMs is much slower than for containers and pods. Dynamically right-sizing your cluster is quite the predicament, particularly as it becomes more multi-purpose. True container as a service, serverless containers. Well, when it comes to right-sizing your cluster scale, while the cloud providers are happy to take your money for extra VMs powering your spare node capacity, they do have a better solution. At reInvent 2017, AWS announced Fargate, to abstract away the servers underneath your cluster. Eventually, it should support EKS in addition to ECS. In the meantime, Azure Container Instances, ACI, is a true Kubernetes pods as a service offering that frees you from worrying about the server group upon which it's running. Higher order Kubernetes SRE. While at Networking Field Day, NFD 17, the video link in the blog, I presented on shifting left, your networking and security considerations to deal with DevOps and multi-purpose clusters. It turns out that on the same day, Software Engineering Daily, who I listen to regularly off the script, I love you guys and I learn a lot. Keep going and wish you best of luck in that business too, Jeff. Software Engineering Daily released their Serverless Containers podcast, link in the blog. In listening to it, you'll realize, as I did, that such serverless container stacks are probably the epitome of multi-purpose Kubernetes clusters. What the cloud providers offer in terms of separation of concerns with serverless container stacks, great cluster SREs will also aim to provide to the developers that they support. When you get to this level of maturity in Kubernetes operations, you're thinking about a lot of things you may not have originally considered. This happens in many areas, but certainly in networking and security. Hence me talking about shift left, so you can prepare to meet certain challenges that you otherwise wouldn't see if you're just getting Kubernetes up and running. See the link to the great book by the same name, Kubernetes Up and Running, in the blog. In the domain of open networking and security, there's no project that approaches the scalability and maturity of Open Contrail. You may have heard of the immortal moment, at least in the community, when AT&T chose it to run their 100-plus clouds, some of enormous size. Riot Games has also blogged about how it underpins their DevOps and container runtime environments for League of Legends, one of the hugest online games around. Cloud-grade networking and security. For cluster multi-tenancy, it goes without saying that it's useful to have multi-tenant networking and security like Open Contrail provides. Sure, you can hack together isolation boundaries with access policies in simpler SDN systems. Indeed, today, some of them are more popular due to their simplicity. But actually having multi-tenant domain and project isolation in your SDN systems far more elegant, scalable, and sane. It's a cleaner hierarchy to contain virtual network designs, IP address management, network policy, and stateful security policy. So the other topic that I covered in NFD, Networking Field Day 17, is the goal of making networking and security more invisible to the cluster SRE and certainly to the developer, but still providing plenty of control and visibility to the network and security reliability engineers. See the link off the script to NRE's network reliability engineers that I'm passionate about, and that was obviously in my last podcast for those of you that regularly tune in. So again, the other topic I covered in NFD 17 is the goal of making networking and security more invisible to the cluster SRE and to the developer, but providing control and visibility to the NRE or NetOps SecOps pros. And Open Contrail helps here in two crucial ways. First, virtual network overlays. Well, they're a first-class concept and object in Open Contrail. This is super useful for your DevOps pipeline because you can create exactly the same networking and security environment for your staging and production deployments. Here's how Riot does it. See the link to the Riot Games blog. Landmines lurk when staging and production aren't really the same. We've all heard about that. But with Open Contrail, you can easily have exactly the same IP subnets, IP addressing, networking, and security policies for staging and production. This is impossible and impractical to do without overlays. You may also perceive that overlays are themselves a healthy separation of concerns from the underlay transport network. That's true. And they easily enable you to use Open Contrail across the multi-cloud on any infrastructure. You can even nest Open Contrail inside of lower layer Open Contrail overlays. Although for OpenStack underlays, it even provides a way to collapse such layers too. So second of all, in terms of cloud-grade networking and security for Kubernetes, second of all, Open Contrail can secure applications on Kubernetes with better invisibility to your developers and transparency to your NetSecOps. Today, a CNI provider for Kubernetes implements pod connectivity and usually network policy objects. Open Contrail does this too, and much more that other CNI providers cannot. But do you really want to require your developers to write Kubernetes network policy objects to blacklist, whitelist the inter-microservice access across application tiers, DevOps stages, namespaces, etc.? I'd love to say that security is shifting left into developers' minds, and that they'll get this right. But realistically, when they have to write code, tests, fixes, documentation, and more, why not just take this off their plates? With Open Contrail, you can easily implement security policies that are outside of Kubernetes and outside of the developer's purview. And I think that's a good idea for the sanity of developers, but also to solve growing security complexity in multi-purpose clusters. If you made it this far, I hope you won't be willfully blind to the Kubernetes SRE foo you'll need sooner or later. So definitely give Open Contrail a try for your K8s networking and security needs. The community's recently made it much more accessible to quick start with Helm packaging, and the work continues to make day one as easy as possible. The Slack team is also helpful. See the link or opencontrail.slack.com. The good news is that with Open Contrail project, very battle tested and now going on 5 years, Your day N should be smooth and steady. P.S. OpenContrail will be joining Linux Foundation Networking and likely renamed, making this article a vestige of early SDN and cloud-native antiquity. All right, that's it for this article. Thanks again for tuning in, and thanks for liking and sharing this stuff on LinkedIn. You can always subscribe to more by following me there or on jameskelly.net. Until next time, remember, there's no such thing as serverless. Until containers run on unicorn tiers and hocus pocus, there's still servers underneath, but there's something we can do to make life easier. Peace out.